Final Fantasy VII Remake took a massive risk, from splitting it into a trilogy to doing very much the opposite of sticking to the script. And while it remains to be seen just how good the full trilogy is going to be, based on its first installment, we can, at the very least, safely say that it's gotten off to a stellar start, and that those aforementioned risks are, so far, paying off. The trilogy will soon be continuing with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so ahead of its launch, here in this two-part series, we're going to recap the entire story of Final Fantasy VII Remake, as well as the Intergrade's episode INTERmission. Without further ado then, let's dive in. Final Fantasy VII Remake is set on the planet of Gaia, also simply known as the planet, and the mega company known as Shinra Electric Power Company all but rules over it absolutely, exerting massive influence in everything from politics to economics and everything in between. The secret to the company's success is Mako, a form of energy that Shinra extracts from the planet, more specifically through the ethereal life stream that courses through it, using Mako reactors. Of course, as you might expect, the company has more than its fair share of dark secrets, indulges in plenty of highly questionable practices that it hides from the public eye. One such secret that Shinra either hides or vehemently refutes is that drawing Mako from the planet is slowly but surely killing it, though the evidence becomes hard to refute once you really start to look, as evidenced by the wastelands that Shinra leaves in its wake after it has fully extracted Mako from various reserves. Against Shinra's absolute power and tyranny, one faction in particular that doesn't take issue with its usage of Mako is Avalanche, an eco-terrorist group with cells scattered all over the place, working constantly to undermine Shinra's goals and stop it from continuing to kill the planet. Often, Avalanche takes drastic measures to do that, like bombing Shinra facilities, and one of many weapons that Shinra uses to fight back against the group is, as you might expect, propaganda, telling the masses, among other things, that Avalanche is allied with resistance fighters from Wutai, which once used to be a powerful and independent nation before being taken over and subjugated by Shinra. Over the course of the trilogy, we're going to see Wutai and plenty more of the planet, but specifically where Final Fantasy VII Remake is concerned, our focus is going to be exclusively on one single city, the massive dystopian cyberpunk city of Midgar, which serves as Shinra's HQ, and is built on a structure of gargantuan plates. Its population is divided by class and status, with the people who are better off living on top of the plates, and the less fortunate folk having to live in the slums underneath, never to see the natural sky. Our protagonist, of course, is Cloud Strife, a former member of Shinra. Disillusioned and disenchanted with Shinra for reasons we'll be getting into later on, Cloud has now become a mercenary, and upon his arrival in Midgar, was approached by Tifa Lockhart, an old childhood friend of his who also happens to be a member of one of Avalanche's cells in the city. In spite of the reluctance of the cell's leader, Barrett Wallace, Tifa hires Cloud's services, asking him to accompany them on a dangerous mission, infiltrating the Mako reactor in Midgar Sector 1 and bombing the facility. Accompanied by Barrett as well as Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, who are also members of Barrett's Avalanche cell, the group infiltrates the reactor, and though it obviously faces resistance, is able to plant a bomb made by Jesse in its core. Unbeknownst to the group, as they escape, the bomb fails to go off, though President Shinra, the head of Shinra Electrical Power Company, who is witnessing the events in the reactor remotely, causes the core to self-destruct. The resulting explosion is a devastating one, completely obliterating the reactor completely and destroying much of the area around it, even causing some civilian casualties. After the explosion, the group agrees to split up and reconvene on the trail leading back into Sector 7 slums, where Barrett's Avalanche cell is based. Cloud separates from the group, and he's making his way through the panic-stricken streets of Sector 1, where he starts hallucinating, having visions of Sephiroth. The vision ends abruptly, and as Cloud is still trying to process it, he crosses paths with Aerith Gainsborough, a florist who's been attacked by mysterious ghostly entities. Though, strangely enough, no one else seems to be reacting to their presence. Nonetheless, the commotion attracts the attention of Shinra's soldiers, and in the chaos the woman flees, while Cloud is able to escape and jump onto a passing train, where he meets back up with the Avalanche group. The party re-enters the Sector 7 slums, and there, Jessie expresses concern over the scale of the explosion, and though she and Tifa are worried about how the bomb could cause the level of destruction that it did, Barrett is eager to move on to the next target, the Mako reactor in Sector 5. For this particular mission, however, he has no interest in retaining Cloud's services. Final Fantasy VII Remake's story takes a bit of a breather here, but mysterious things continue to happen nonetheless. For starters, Cloud still keeps seeing visions and hallucinations of Sephiroth for reasons he cannot fathom. Meanwhile, after the Sector 1 reactor's bombing, Cloud is also helped by Tifa in finding work around the Sector 7 slums, so he can make a name for himself in the area as a reputed mercenary. One job in particular sees them free Tifa's friend Johnny from Shinra public security custody, with Tifa concerned that they might be able to get him to spill sensitive information about Avalanche. Upon rescuing him, though Cloud is ready to kill Johnny, Tifa stops him and convinces Johnny to flee and never return. Following that, in the lead up to the next bombing mission, Jessie hires Cloud on a quest of her own to infiltrate a Shinra warehouse on top of Sector 7 plate so they can steal a new blasting agent that will allow her to ensure the next bomb doesn't malfunction the way she believes the one used for Sector 1 reactor did. Accompanied by Biggs and Wedge, Cloud and Jessie head topside, and after facing some resistance from Shinra forces led by Hiroshi, who seems to really love his bike, they head to Jessie's house, where they intend to steal her father's Shinra employee card, which in turn will allow them to access the warehouse. Here, Cloud also learns that Jessie's father has been living in a comatose state ever since he was caught in an accident at the Shinra facility he used to work at, causing extreme Mako poisoning. That, incidentally, was what made Jessie decide to join Avalanche, even though initially her dream had been to go to the popular amusement park / city known as Gold Saucer and become an actor. Eventually, Cloud, Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge make it into the Shinra warehouse, and though they succeed in stealing the blasting agent, they also end up attracting the attention of Shinra's forces. Roche returns once again, and he and Cloud engage in a furious duel. Just as the warehouse is flooded by Shinra forces, however, in the nick of time, a separate cell of Avalanche intervenes, engaging Shinra in combat and allowing the group to escape and return to the Sector 7 slums. Soon after their return, though, the slums are attacked by the mysterious ghostly entities that Cloud encountered before, and in the attack, Jessie is hurt. The next morning, Jessie's injury forces Barrett to rethink his plans, and he's forced to enlist Cloud's services once again so he can join them in their stead. Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa head out to the Sector 5 reactor, but their journey isn't as uneventful as they may have hoped. While riding the train to the reactor, they're unable to pass a security check, bringing Shinra's forces down on them. They abandon the train and are forced to continue to the reactor on foot, and though they meet plenty of Shinra resistance on the way, ultimately they are able to reach the reactor. At the reactor, however, things certainly don't go to plan, to say the very least. The trio successfully plants a remote bomb in the reactor's core, but as they're leaving, they learn that Shinra News has been broadcasting them live to the public. President Shinra appears to them in a hologram, revealing that the company itself was responsible for the Sector 1 reactor's destruction and has actually been allowing Avalanche to carry out its activities so that it can further spread its propaganda against the group. Shinra has been painting Avalanche as a group of terrorists in order to continue cementing public support, and intends to destroy Sector 5's reactor to that very end. As you might expect, chaos ensues. The party is forced to fight and destroy a massive hulking Shinra machine, while the facility self-destructs, all of which ends with Cloud being separated from Barrett and Tifa after he falls down an abyss, crashing right down into the Sector 5 slums. While unconscious, he sees visions of Sephiroth once again, and when he finally comes to, he finds himself on a flower bed in a church in the slums, a hole blown into the building's roof where he actually crashed through it. Here, Cloud meets Aerith once again, the florist he encountered after the Sector 1 reactor's bombing. Aerith, as it turns out, is being pursued by Shinra for reasons that we'll get into later. Aerith hires Cloud to protect her and escort her back to her home before he heads back to Sector 7. A man named Reno quickly arrives on the scene. Cloud and Reno lock horns in a duel, though their fight is interrupted when the mysterious ghost-like entities intervene once again. This time, however, for some reason, rather than attacking Cloud and Aerith, they simply prevent Cloud from killing Reno, while also guiding them away from the scene itself. Cloud and Aerith spend the next day in each other's company, during which time Cloud fights and defeats Rude. Afterward, when they finally arrive at Aerith's house, they meet her mother Elmira, who is none too pleased that her daughter has been roped into Cloud's affairs. Nonetheless, as Cloud prepares to return to Sector 7 and rendezvous with Barrett and Tifa, Aerith ends up accompanying him, and during their journey, she tells him about a man he reminds her of, another character who used to be very dear to her. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy VII's story, you will, of course, know that she's referring to Zack Fair here, a man who also had a major impact on Cloud's own life. But just as Aerith brings him up, Cloud begins feeling strange effects in his head that cause his vision to go blurry. More on that later. Back to the matter at hand, Cloud and Aerith's journey to Sector 7 doesn't go to plan, because they soon discover that after the Sector 5 reactor's bombing, Tifa was taken captive by Don Corneo, a criminal overlord who also frequently deals with Shinra behind the scenes. Naturally, the only course of action available to Cloud at this point is to head into Corneo's mansion and rescue Tifa, something that Aerith agrees to aid him with. The duo is able to successfully break into the mansion and gain an audience with Don Corneo. After rescuing Tifa, the group corners the Don, following which Cloud threatens to kill him if he doesn't tell them how Shinra plans to deal with Avalanche. Unsurprisingly, Corneo buckles under the pressure, though the things he reveals shocks the group to its core. Corneo reveals that Shinra plans to drop the Sector 7 plate, which would kill everyone living on it, as well as the masses that live in the slums underneath. The company plans to blame the destruction of the plate and the large-scale devastation and loss of life that will follow on Avalanche. Just as Corneo reveals this though, he activates a trapdoor beneath the party's feet, causing Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith to drop down into the sewers below. All three of them are keenly aware of the need for urgency though, because they now know they need to rush back to Sector 7 and prevent Shinra from dropping the plate. As soon as Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa find themselves in the sewers beneath Don Corneo's mansion, they know they're in a race against time to get back to Sector 7 and try and stop Shinra from dropping the plate. After making their way through the sewers, the trio finds itself in a haunted train graveyard, and after defeating the demon haunting the place, they finally find themselves back in Sector 7, where crap has very much already hit the fan. Shinra has let it be publicly known that Avalanche is threatened to drop the plate, but claims to refuse to negotiate with the group. Meanwhile, in reality, Shinra's forces are out in full force, preventing residents from leaving the slums and working on dropping the plate, while Avalanche forces, led by Barrett, Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, try and stop them. In the ensuing chaos, though many residents are able to evacuate the slums, Wedge is critically injured and lost in the ruckus. Biggs is gravely injured, and Jesse dies in Cloud's arms. Meanwhile, Cloud and Tifa take on Rude and Reno in a furious fight, while Aerith makes her way, hoping to grab Barrett's daughter Marlene and leave before the plate can collapse. When she reaches the bar, though it's on fire, she finds Marlene, but as the two are about to leave, they are stopped by Sang, at which point Aerith tells him that she will go with him peacefully if he ensures Marlene's safety, to which Sang agrees. Cloud and Tifa, meanwhile, win their fight against Rude and Reno, but in the end, they are unable to stop the plate from collapsing. Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett escape from the scene while the Sector 7 plate comes crashing down, and in the aftermath, the group catches a breath at Aerith's house, where they meet back up with her mother Elmira and find Marlene, who was brought here by Sang after his deal with Aerith. Later on, they also return to the Sector 7 ruins and find an injured Wedge, and bring him back to Elmira so he can recuperate. At this point, Final Fantasy VII Remake begins answering some key questions, like what exactly Shinra wants with Aerith, for starters. As it turns out, Aerith is tuned to the planet's lifestream and possesses strong magical abilities. Elmira tells the party that Aerith and her biological mother had been captives of Shinra, and though they were able to escape, Aerith's mother died. Before dying in a chance encounter, she asked Elmira, who was little more than a passerby, to take Aerith and care for her. And the reason Shinra wants Aerith back is because it believes that using her lineage, she can lead them to the fabled place, which is said to be a full limitless reserves of Mako, and we all know how much Shinra loves exploiting Mako. Leaving Marlene and Wedge in Elmira's care, Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett head to Shinra headquarters to rescue Aerith, though that, of course, is easier said than done. Hoping to learn of a way into the HQ, they head back to Don Corneo's mansion. When the Dawn is nowhere to be found, however, they are approached by one of his henchmen, Leslie, who, thanks to a personal grudge against Corneo of his own, decides to help them track him down. When they do eventually find him at his hideout, Corneo is once again able to escape, though Leslie manages to find a way to help the party regardless, by giving them grappling guns that they can use to climb up the Sector 7 ruins, scale its massive walls, and get topside, where Shinra HQ lies. Upon reaching the HQ, the party receives help in making its way towards the towering building's top by, of all people, Domino, the mayor of Midgar, who, thanks to the resentment he harbors for Shinra at how little authority he actually has been acting as Avalanche's man on the inside. Deeper inside the belly of the beast, Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa are able to eavesdrop on a meeting being attended by Shinra's directors, including by President Shinra himself. Another notable figure in attendance is Pojo, Shinra's chief scientist, who's obsessed with finding the fabled place. Back to the matter at hand though, while eavesdropping on the meeting, the party learns that Shinra aims to find the fabled place through Aerith, where it intends to build a new city as its seat of power in the form of Neo Midgar. After freeing Aerith, the party continues to chase after Hojo, and at this point, they cross paths with another unlikely ally, a sentient red lion-like beast going by the name Red 13, who has been subjected to all manner of experiments in Shinra captivity. Their interests aligned, Red 13 joins the party. Here, after the party catches its collective breath, they receive a video message telling them that Wedge and Domino are on their way to Shinra HQ's top in a rescue chopper. The party quickly leaves the room and begins its ascent. As you might imagine, however, things quickly start getting much more complicated. They find themselves in the office of President Shinra himself, whom they find clinging on for dear life as he hangs off the edge of the building. Barrett pulls him up, telling him with characteristic aggression to clear Avalanche's name and reveal the truth about Shinra to everyone, though their encounter is interrupted when Sephiroth once again emerges on the scene, killing him and then stabbing Barrett through the chest. It also turns out that the Sephiroth standing before them is a clone, one created through mysterious means that Final Fantasy VII Remake sequels will learn more about, though, again, veteran fans will be well aware of all the details. As another Sephiroth clone arrives on the scene and flees, the one that stabbed Barrett takes Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and Red 13 on in combat. They are ultimately able to defeat it, following which the mysterious ghost-like entities that we've spoken about a few times by this point once again enter the scene, healing Barrett and ensuring that he doesn't die, before promptly disappearing again. Right around then, the party faces another hurdle in the form of Rufus Shinra, President Shinra's son. After successfully defeating the heir to Shinra Electric Power Company using stolen vehicles, the party escapes from Shinra HQ, driving through an expressway where they continue fending off Shinra forces. Ultimately, the expressway leads them to the edges of Midgar, though the way out of the city is far from clear. Before them stands Sephiroth once again, who rips a hole into the air and disappears within it, beckoning Cloud to follow him outside. Meanwhile, a massive amalgam of the ghost-like entities also swirls around the scene in a furious storm. Red 13 tells them that these entities are known as Whispers, driven by one goal and one goal only, to ensure that things happen the way they are supposed to happen. In a nutshell, they're responsible for ensuring that Final Fantasy VII Remake's campaign doesn't deviate too far from the original game, which is why we see them popping up every now and then and taking actions that, one way or another, end up forcing things to play out roughly as they are quote-unquote supposed to, as per the original game's campaign. From injuring Jesse so that Cloud would have to accompany Barrett and Tifa, to the Sector 5 reactor, to healing Barrett and ensuring that, unlike in the original course of events, he doesn't die. Even though the full extent of Sephiroth's plans isn't clear to anyone yet, knowing that he presents a major threat to the planet, perhaps even more so than Shinra, Cloud and co. step through the passageway that he created and follow him through, finding themselves in what seems like an alternate dimension. Here they face their first battle against the Whispers and are able to defeat them, which in turn means that the future is in totally uncharted territory from here on out. Following that, after Cloud is besieged by visions from Sephiroth, showing him scenes of carnage, from the destruction of the entire planet through a meteor crash to the death of Aerith, the party battles Sephiroth only to be predictably defeated. Sephiroth, however, doesn't land a killing blow. That's not what he's here for after all. After cryptically warning Cloud that he has 7 seconds until the end, when Cloud refuses to join him in his plans for the world's future, Sephiroth leaves. Following that, the party finds itself back on the expressway. Cloud and co. forge on ahead, leaving Midgar behind and stepping out into the larger world. And that's effectively where Final Fantasy VII Remake's campaign ends, though it does still drop a few more significant tidbits. Biggs is revealed to be alive, and there are even teases that Jesse didn't die when the Sector 7 plate collapsed either. The biggest reveal of them all, however, is that of Zack Fair still being alive. Who is Zack Fair exactly? He used to be an ally of Cloud's a long time ago, and if not for him, Cloud would not have been able to leave Shinra behind. In the original continuity, Zack ended up dying outside the walls of Midgar as he helped Cloud escape, and right before his death, he passed his iconic Buster Sword on to Cloud. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, however, it's revealed that Zack is somehow still alive, and somehow still in possession of the Buster Sword, even though we've seen the weapon with Cloud all throughout the game's duration. And how exactly did that happen? Well, presumably the party messed with the flow of time and tore a hole in causality when it destroyed the Whispers, though obviously we don't have anything close to a precise answer yet. That's the extent of Final Fantasy VII Remake's campaign, though there is more campaign content to be had in episode INTERmission as well, which was available exclusively in the game's Intergrade re-release. Set shortly after the destruction of the Sector 5 reactor, INTERmission focuses on Yuffie, a ninja warrior loyal to the nation of Wutai, and her partner Sonon, both of whom have arrived in Midgar to steal something known as the Ultimate Materia, which they hope to use to give Wutai an edge in its continued fight against Shinra. Their mission doesn't go to plan in the slightest, however. Not only do they discover that the Ultimate Materia project hasn't yet been completed, Sonon is also killed, with Yuffie managing to escape just as the Sector 7 plate is coming crashing down. Later, she decides that in order to take down Shinra, she's going to need some allies. And that's all there really is to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Obviously, the game raises a ton of tantalizing questions for what the future of the Remake trilogy will bring. With the Whispers now gone, clearly all bets are off going forward. Multiple characters who should have been dead at this point in the original game's campaign are still alive, including the likes of Zack, Biggs, and in all likelihood, Jesse. With that in mind, how significantly will the campaign deviate from the original going forward? And what role will Zack play? And will Aerith still meet the fate that she famously met in the original game? Thankfully, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth out on February 29th, we don't have to wait too long until we get the answers to our questions. Or, well, some of them at any rate. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.